Hey everybody, I'm finally back for part 4 of the Board Track Racer series. It's kind of been a while. I think it's been about a year since I made part 3, and as some of you know, I was in Iraq for about 6 months, so that took up a good chunk of it, and then just getting back, getting used to everything again, kind of getting back in the swing. So finally did it. Just took a year to get to part 4. So in this part we're going to cover the jackshaft and then also an oil cooler mount for the Board Track Racer. So stay tuned. Okay, so this is going to be one of the more intricate parts of the build because I didn't really design this frame to run this motor. The hoop right here isn't in the ideal spot, so I have to come up with a jackshaft also to offset how far out the sprocket is on this. On the bully clutch, it's installed according to their recommendations with the proper backspacing and everything. So this part's going to be kind of difficult. I've been playing around with a few different ideas and ended up right from the get-go knowing I was going to have to use a jackshaft. So did some calculations and ended up using this one here. It's a 3/4 inch jackshaft. I know 3/4 inch isn't the thickest, but with how far apart the load's going to be from the bearings, it should be fine. And the jackshaft kit comes with these hoops here, and then I bent this bracket up out of 1/4 inch on my press brake over there. But you don't necessarily need to bend it. You could have just cut and spliced this. Like instead of doing the 90-degree bends, you could just cut it off and then weld it back up. So those are just tacked right now. I have to straighten them out. But eventually this is going to go in here somewhere. So that's the plan. Hopefully it'll come together pretty good. And let's work it out from here. After a lot of trial and error, I think I finally figured out where I'm going to put it. Right about there. I have a fixture and everything that I'm going to use to weld this on. But right now I just think that this is probably going to be the best location. I did a lot of measurements. The biggest thing to consider is the oil filter. It goes right over where one of the sprockets is going to go. So if this was too high up, the sprocket and the chain would hit the oil filter. So I had to clear that, so I had to, you can see, like, cut this little notch out just so I could get this low enough where it's not going to interfere. So it should work pretty well. Just like everything else, if I would design this whole frame around the motor to start with, this wouldn't be a problem. I would just have the jackshaft go in on one side and come out on the other. But because everything was already designed before I even put this motor in here, I had to kind of adapt everything. So that's part of the reason everything's so complicated, just because I'm adapting it to fit versus building around it. But that should work pretty well. The holes that I drilled in it are just for lightning. I'm going to probably do the same thing with the motor plate too once I get everything done. Just to try to cut down on some of the weight, because there's a lot of steel on this thing. Here it is, all tacked in place. See right there. Then I made like a little bit of a gusset right there too. You can kind of see it. That's all going to get finished a little bit better once everything's out of here. It's just tacked in place for right now. I'm going to shape it all to the motor plate a lot better than this. Then also probably do some kind of bracing from here to there. I just have to get this all permanently in just to see where it's going to fall. The chain I just have on now kind of for a test fit. It's not cut to length or anything yet. You can see it right there. But everything lines up really good. Then also I'll just have to cut this down too, the jack shaft, once I get everything in place and find out exactly how long I need it. So next step's going to be mounting up the wheel and running those sprockets. Just put the rest of the sprockets on. As you can see, got the second part of the jack shaft attached. And it did cause a little bit of clearance problems right there. So I had to clearance the frame. Again, this frame is adapted from another plan I was trying to do before. Previously, I was trying to run a pit bike motor in it, so running the pit bike motor, the chain would have run on both sides of that bar right there. So if I was to design the frame from the ground up for this motor, I would have run the frame down there instead of up there, so I wouldn't need to clearance it, but just a small clearance, it should be fine. And that's the jack shaft. Next thing on the list is starting to mount some accessories. So the first thing I decided to mount was the oil cooler, just because you can see the oil cooler fittings right down there. So I wanted to mount it close so I didn't have all this extra plumbing to do, so I just decided to mount it right there. I'm probably going to make a screen cover for it too to protect it, and with some scoops or something to direct the air into it. You can see I just used 10 gauge flat pieces of metal, cut it out, drilled the holes, bent it. I just like to use little cardboard templates. This is just poster board. Get it to focus. But yeah, just regular poster board. You can use like cereal boxes, that kind of stuff too. It all works pretty well. I got the top mount done. These rubber bushings were actually on the Predator to start with. I just reused them because they were just attached to the actual oil cooler. I got the top mount done. Still need to do the bottom mount, and then we'll keep mounting accessories. I wanted to do this first before I started doing the bracing for the jack shaft and the peg mounts, just because this is the stuff that was more important and I kind of wanted to go around it, so started with this first. I know I covered this before, but this is usually how I lay out my templates and stuff. So again, just poster board. Then if there's a hinge, sometimes I like to do it separately. So I'll just put tape in the middle there so I can bend it easily. Then just lay it out in the middle, just like that. Center punch your holes first while it's still flat. I'm going to put some more lightning holes here. I'm just not sure where yet, so I'm going to cut it out first. But yeah, thinking it out and using templates makes everything 20 times easier. Also, pro tip, grab one of those bottles off of Amazon. You'll save a ton of acetone. Slopping around that jug, you end up losing a lot of it. Another quick note too, I use these weld nuts a lot. It looks just like a regular nut, but if you see right there, there's little teeth. And then there's also a ring inside those teeth to center it inside a hole. So that way when you weld it, it doesn't shift at all. If you just try to weld a regular nut on the back of it, it will usually shift when you weld, and then it'll be a hard time to get the bolt out after. So these keep everything centered and it works pretty good. When I weld these on, I usually don't use filler. I just TIG weld them in, and it looks like it was like a factory pressed insert by the time it's done. So yeah, they're super handy. You can get them on eBay. They're really, really cheap. I highly recommend them. Okay, you can see right here, I got the bracket welded in for the bottom oil cooler mount. So it's kind of hard to see. I'll put it down on the ground to try to get a better angle. You can kind of see the mount right there. Sorry, it's a little blurry. I'm going to go down from the other side. There, you can see where it attaches to everything. I'll probably get better shots of this later once I pull the whole thing off to finish weld everything, but you get the idea. And I did have to shorten the left hose a little bit just to make everything smooth going into the motor. But all in all, pretty simple. It's nice and clean. I'm probably going to build a scoop over it to kind of direct air in from the front, this way when it's going down the road. So there you go. That was part 4. It might not have been as detailed as some of the other parts. I haven't done this for like a year, so I'm still getting back into the swing of things. So hopefully the further parts going on from this point, it should be a little bit more detailed. I was just trying to make a lot of progress with limited amount of time, so I didn't get to film everything. Hopefully y'all got the picture. I don't feel like I left anything important out. If you have any questions, feel free to comment on the video. Obviously like and subscribe so you can keep up with everything. Hopefully I'm going to do another part every 2 weeks or so. So as you can see in the other comments too, I usually get back to people pretty quick. So post any questions or comments you have and I'll definitely get back to you. Talk to you later, guys.